Okay, in the next part, what we're going to do is we're going to isolate this piece of coral, and then we're going to move it into part C. And this is we're going to sort of talk about how you can use a combination of selection tools to do what you need to do. So I'm going to zoom in and blow this up. Okay, so we can see what we've got here. Now, in this, if you look at this, this is a very complex selection. But one of the things that you might notice is that uh, the the white that is surrounding it is starkly the same, right? All of this has really different edges, and at no point along the edges of this coral is it pure white. And so one of the things that you can do is you can select edges based on color and based on, difference of values. And so we can choose the magic wand tool. Now the problem though with the magic wand tool is, which is, by the way, going to be underneath the quick selection tool. So the magic wand tool is that if I were to, basically select this, you'll see that whenever, oops, let's do this. I'm sorry. Let's go back to my layers and make sure we've got layer 0 selected. Now, if I go back here and I select that, you see that's a really complex little selection, and it and what it does is it takes a tolerance of based on a 32 pixel sort of range or radius sample. So you're choosing a point sample. You can also change the numbers of samples here to make a difference in how big the sample size is. And you can play around with these different choices up here, but one of the things that's going to be a lot easier to do is if you select the white, look what happens. It selects everything except for that coral. But the problem is that it's also not selecting some of these other things up here. So the easiest way, I'm going to deselect using Command or Control D. The easiest way to isolate this then is to go and use a marquee tool. Let's choose the rectangular marquee. And first of all, let's just isolate this part, okay? So that's the first thing that we can do. And then now what we can do is we can make a decision with the magic wand. We can choose where it's got this little background, where it's the white in the background. And if you hold that, it says subtract from selection. Okay, if we choose that, what's going to happen now is if we subtract this white background, it's only going to choose what is left in this current square selection, which is going to be the coral. Okay, so if I go ahead and I click on this, you see what it did is it said, oh, okay, I want to take everything inside of that square selection, and I want to subtract the pixels, the color range that I click on. I want to subtract it from the square selection and leave only what's on the inside of that, right? So that is the easiest way to select that coral. And it's you'll notice too, the other thing that does not exist with the magic wand is it doesn't have a feather up here. So if you want to soften the edge of this, you can do so in the same ways that I've shown you before. So, but if you want, you could also just try to see what that looks like before you go to that trouble, and you could just do a really quick test. Let's take the move tool and we can drag it up here and see where it says that it wants it. We can drop it there, and you see that I just removed it. I can always, I'm going to deselect, and I'm okay with the way that looks, although it's potentially a little dark in some of the places around the edges. So if I don't like that, like I told you before, you can just jump up here to your history, and let's go back to the magic wand selection here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm not going to feather my selection right now. I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go select, and just to be safe, I'll save my selection. I'll call it, well, I think that there might already be a channel. Yeah, there's already a channel that for some reason that they saved called Coral, but I'll call it Coral Mine or something like that, right? So it's my coral selection, and I'll call it unfeathered, like that, okay? And then the next thing, if I wanted to feather that and soften the edge, I could go up here now to select, modify, and I'll feather it by 1 pixel. And then now I can just copy it and I'll paste it. Well, actually, when I paste it, it'll paste it in the same place. All right, so it pasted it right there. And then if we go into our layer panel right here, I'm going to call that coral. All right, and then I'll move it up to where it needs to go. Here, let's kind of do this, right? And then I think that that's a much softer, more natural looking edge. It doesn't have all those black edges, those harsh black edges on top of this light colored area. All right, so that's the way that I would handle that differently. Okay, and so now what we've got is you've seen how you can use a combination of tools to make your selections. And just remember, like if you were to go back to this magic wand, it's going to still be on subtract from selection. So you might, if you make changes to your customary way of doing stuff up here, you might want to go back and put it back on the default settings so that it doesn't confuse you later.